Well, welcome everybody to another episode of.
Of the Super Data Brothers.
That's right. I am Ryan,
And I am Eric.
and we are two real-life brothers who work in the data and analytics industry, and who are also experiencing some weird technical difficulties today.
Yeah.
So bear with us for a second here. Super excited about today's show, though. Why don't you tell them what we have coming up here, Eric?
Yeah, Ryan, I'm so excited for today's show because, we've been talking about LLMs and these AI systems and chatbots for like basically every show. Like if the guest doesn't bring it up, if we don't bring it up, then someone else is going to bring it up, right? It basically, talking about BI and analytics, it seems it's slotting into every single topic we talk about.
Yep.
Right. So I'm glad that we have Sanjeev on because he has some history and he has some expertise in this area of analyzing like the BI landscape. And I think he has a lot of interesting things we can talk about, stuff that was in the video description, basically, vendors integrating BI, integrating LLMs, everything else around LLMs. I mean, it's a big topic. So I think it's going to be really exciting to talk about.
Yeah. So why don't we, do we have anything we want to go over before we bring Sanjeev on?
No, I think. Oh, your positions are swapped as well.
Yeah. Well,
is that better? Is that better? I don't want to throw off anyone's groove.
That's right.
No, I think we can bring Sanjeev on.
All right, let's go ahead and without further ado, welcome Sanjeev Mohan. Sanjeev, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ryan and Eric. It's such a pleasure to hang out
great
with
to have
you on
you.
this gorgeous Friday morning.
Yeah, great. No, we're really excited to talk to you today. So why don't you give everybody kind of a brief description of kind of your background and how you came to be interested in kind of LLMs and how they integrate with data?
So, Ryan, I have been in the data and analytics space for over 3 decades now. I've always been deeply entrenched into the database management system space, where I started my career working for Oracle in the 1990s. And then the whole GDPR thing and all that was coming into existence. So I got into data governance and all kinds of like data management, data ops space. And then the whole AI thing now is, I think, probably one of the most exciting times that I've lived at. In fact, I keep thinking people tell me this is bigger than dot-com boom. And I keep thinking, yes, but there's a big difference. When dot-com boom took place, were you guys working at that time during dot-com boom?
Not really. I was in college.
Yeah, I was probably in, I don't know, fifth grade. So I was working on my handwriting. That's what I was working on.
Dot-com boom days, to me, still were just amazing because money was no object. It was all about, getting eyeballs. Forget about like business case and, making money. And so today, I think, although AI, some people say, is bigger than dot-com boom, but it's also, we're going through these pretty tough economic times where people are losing jobs and funding has come to a halt except for AI companies. So it's good and bad. It's a lot of exciting stuff happening, but in the bigger macroeconomics, things are tough.
Yeah, that's one thing I know you have a lot of expertise in that I'm really interested in getting your take on. And that is kind of, it seemed like before ChatGPT really took the world by storm last fall, the conversation we were having in data was more around data products, data mesh, right? Data decentralization and that sort of thing. And so I'm curious, that's still a really important topic that a lot of people are talking about. What is kind of the intersection of the data mesh and data product conversation with LLMs? Like, how is that going to change things going forward?
Yeah, so we're jumping straight into this. Now, one thing I want to say is to all the listeners, this is all unscripted. This is all like a lot of what I'm thinking is a bit futuristic. So this is not like well rehearsed and proven, written in stone. This is how you do things. So let's take a step back. Like, why were we so much into decentralized data mesh, data product space? Is because data has become such a crucial piece of everything we do that the data engineers at the team in between was kind of becoming a bottleneck, because the businesses are saying, I'm running this campaign. I want this information right now. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I have a new use case. I now want to do some predictive machine learning stuff. And the data needs to be available to me right now, right away, with the highest quality, uh, and all the bells and whistles. So the data engineers were getting squeezed between higher number of data producers, more sources of data, and then harmonizing, integrating, enriching them for the consumers. So data mesh is the whole idea of, let's have people who know the data the best be responsible for producing the outcomes. The consumers can then have some sort of accountability into the quality, and who's responsible for the numbers on my dashboard. Because today it so happens that because we traverse through so many different systems, we lose control over where did the problem happen with a bad data quality or anomaly. But by moving it to the domains, we can then restore a little bit of control over the data outcomes. Now, now coming to data products, whether you do data mesh or not, data products are totally independent. It is a good idea to have a product owner in the domain who understands this data to package the way we are going to consume the results. So that's how data products came about. So maybe a data mart could be construed as a data product if it's done using product management principles. So now comes the question, how do I consume it as a consumer? I can write a SQL statement. I can put a BI dashboard report on top. I can call an API and do my Python coding if I want. But how about exposing my data product through a language model? This is where LLMs come in, because this is a way of this journey that we are on, which is making the business self-sufficient, giving business the ability to use the data products without having to rely on a technical staff member. So what's the most intuitive way to do that is through language. What if I can go to a chatbot and I can say, show me, and then I type in some instructions, the most profitable product in this region at this day, and it shows me the result. But then I say, now I want you to narrow down this list by different context. Now I want you to do this. Now I want that. So the LLM remembers my context, and it is like constantly refining the responses for me. This is one way of democratizing my data and analytics. Now I can have more users, but now they don't have to go to a dashboard. You guys are the BI experts, so I don't know if you agree with this, but dashboard is not the best, most intuitive way to consume information.
No.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah, we agree with that completely.
Completely. Yeah. A lot of times you create a dashboard for someone, for an executive, and dashboards are good for operational things. Analysts themselves maybe digging deeper, but like a dashboard by itself doesn't answer any questions, right? Like,
Yes.
a good dashboard, like the designer has the question in mind, and the user basically comes to it like that question answered,
Yeah.
right? So like I agree, like the large language models,
Correct.
for the end user, for the BI user, it's just so powerful that
Right.
someone could come in and just ask what they want and get the answer. Maybe like have them show them the information itself, or just tell them where to get the information, right?
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I forgot to bring up during our intro. I actually last night, and I was shocked at how easy this was, and set up like a large language model on my local computer and fed it all of the transcripts from the Super Data Show, right? Because YouTube generates transcripts, so I fed those all into the model, and you can ask the questions. So that's something I think later in the show that we can show off after we're done talking about like the implications of a large language model. We can say like, all right, well, let's test one out and ask the questions that someone would ask us and see what Super Data Bot has to say about it. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure even now a lot of people who are listening to this are going, yeah, but wait, the whatever I said about asking these questions, how true is it? How possible is it? Well, right now, it is not that possible, and the reason for that is because the only LLMs that we have available are the ones that are trained on public data, like all of internet. So up to September 2021 for GPT-3 and GPT-4. So that's the corpus of data on which we've trained these LLMs. But the future does not belong to this. I think these LLMs have opened floodgates. What's going to happen is exactly what Eric, you did, which is you take that LLM and you say, go read my data and and make it applicable to my use case. So the LLMs the public LLMs, like GPT-3, GPT-4, Palm 2 from Google, Llama from Facebook, Cohere has one, Anthropic. So these are the big ones that I hear about. So these large models, they become like the operating system. They are the infrastructure layer. On top of that, you could then put your own enterprise layer. And then we are going to see more and more in the next year or so private LLMs. And this is not a term, I'm just making this up. A private LLM is where the process of creating an LLM becomes so easy, and it's open source maybe. I can train it on my laptop. And let's say I'm a law practice, and I've got 20, 30 years of these documents OCR'd into my SharePoint sitting. If I can say, okay, I now have my own LLM, go to this SharePoint. I don't care about the external internet data, but I do care about all my data sources, train it, and this way I can ask a question, a prompt, and that prompt is not going to OpenAI. It's not training a public LLM. It is all within my firewall. So this is the future where we will, if we go down this route, then every business is going to have its own LLM. Not just every business. I could have, if I'm a multinational, I could have an LLM in Germany because of GDPR, and one in China, and one in India, and one in the US, and then divided by marketing and by accounting. So that's a revolution which we are going to see in the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to me. And one of the things that I see when I'm talking with different data leaders, especially some of the executives at large firms that I've talked to, is like it seems like we're in this stage where we've all seen how powerful these things are. And so a lot of the big companies I know have kind of put a pause on their usage while they evaluate, okay, what are we going to do with these things? What are our security policies going to be? And that's really what I'm hoping you can help us understand is like, if I'm a data leader or I'm trying to figure out how to deploy one of these LLMs, what are my options, and what things do I need to think about to ensure that it's able to serve up accurate data, quality data, but that also I have some control over it, right? That I can't ask the model, what Eric's salary is and get an answer.
Yeah. See, this is an interesting topic. I've been thinking quite about it. You cannot put LLM on your local database. First of all, I don't think the technology even allows us to. I take it back. I think the technology is not the problem. The problem is that if you point your LLM to your enterprise database and you don't have any controls, and we know LLMs are going to hallucinate and make things up, So it's not like, I'll just see Eric's salary, but maybe his salary will show up as double of mine, and I'll be very mad. It's like, why is Eric making more than me? He was in 5th grade when I was doing .com boom. So I cannot trust that. The other interesting thing that's happening is at that time when Eric was in fifth grade. Sorry, I'm riffing on it over and over.
Go for
It's all good.
it.
It's all good.
So at that time, actually, the World Wide Web was very new. So we had started in the late 90s or mid 90s with static web pages, just marketing material. And then we found out that no, you could actually ask questions directly from the database. The problem was that when you pointed a World Wide Web, like a web server to the database, and you had a place where somebody could say, this is the product I'm looking for, they could actually put the SQL statement in there and what we now call SQL injection. And actually, we could circumvent the controls and we could go directly to the database. Today, we're talking about prompt injection. So that means that you cannot just willy-nilly point an LLM to your database because you don't know. Somebody may keep asking questions after questions after questions to the LLM to a point where it kind of brings it down to its knees, and then we don't know what will happen. It's all very new. I feel that data product becomes a layer of abstraction between an LLM and my raw data. So first of all, it's not just raw data, I have many data sources. So let's take an example. Let's be more specific here. Let's say I'm a bank and I have an app to do KYC, which is know your customer. Every bank has it, it's mandated. So that KYC is bringing data from different regional sources, from risk and compliance team, from products like retail bank, business bank, lending and leasing, loans. So the customer is in many of these places at this point. So today I'm creating my pipeline, my data engineering pipeline, which is bringing data from all these different places and is populating a dashboard, which is my KYC dashboard. But if one of the jobs did not run, I may miss it. Maybe I have to put data observability. Maybe for some reason the data quality was bad, so my dashboard is wrong. In data products, what I'm saying is, why don't you, Mr. Bank or department, create a KYC data product? So now you're taking responsibility for data quality, availability of data, freshness of data, and all of that. So if I can now point my LLM to my data product, then I can control hallucination. Because, and I'm saying control, I don't think I can eliminate it because we still don't understand how these LLMs work. But I have now some sense of guarantee on the data that people are going to consume. This is the view that I have of using an LLM along with a data product.
Yeah, I think we've talked to a couple of people on the show in the last 2 months, where this kind of idea has come up, and we've been discussing it sometimes in the context of like the semantic layer, right? And let's build a semantic layer, and then point our LLMs to that rather than pointing it to some raw data. And I think this is a similar. It's a really kind of a similar concept. I personally love the idea of data products, and I think that like this kind of, I think back. Go ahead, Sanjeev.
Sorry to interrupt, but data products and semantic layers have a very close relationship. A data product must have a semantic layer. A data product is an amalgamation of the enriched data, curated data with a semantic layer and with some access patterns. On top of that, I have, so I built it using product management and I have a product owner. All of these things define a data product. On top of that, the way it differs from a semantic model is that I also have this data product in a discoverable place, which I wrote a Forbes article. It's called Making Data Products Mainstream, Introducing Data Products Catalog.
Hmm.
This is not a separate catalog. It could be part of the data catalog, but the data product now goes into a marketplace, and I am collecting the telemetry of my data product. So I am collecting how many people are using it, who else is using it. So I'm discovering my data tribes. I'm a new employee into a company, and I want to do customer churn. So I'm like, why should I create a model from scratch? Maybe there is a data product that is a machine learning model in reality to do customer churn. Where do I find it? I go to a catalog. There I find I find out, I do a search on customer churn. It says here are the different data products that has something to do with customer churn. Then I go into the usage metrics and I say, look, Ryan is using this, but Eric is using a different one. But Ryan is part of my sort of tribe because we are same department. So maybe I should ping Ryan. Also, from a development point of view, I can track what is the latest release, how often these releases have come, and that usage can help me drive the productivity of my development team. So, so to some extent, it is semantics layer on steroids by bringing together all these different pieces.
Yeah, you are speaking my language,
Yeah.
Sanjeev. Like I cannot tell you how often I run into data teams that are so focused on the pipeline and the keep making it operate efficiently and having observability into the pipeline, and that's super important, right?
Yeah,
But when it comes to who's actually consuming this stuff and
correct.
what are they doing with it, right?
Hmm.
That they don't have that kind of visibility. They kind of just say, well, it's in some ML models and it's in some dashboards, right? And I don't know, how do you run a data practice if you don't know what people are actually doing with your data, right? And that's one of the reasons why I find semantic layers and data products and all this sort of stuff so exciting, because I feel the focus kind of shifting more to away from the pure data movement, storage, and calculation, and maybe a new or renewed focus on, yeah, but who's actually using this stuff and what are they doing with it? Do you kind of feel that cultural shift happening too?
100%.
Yeah.
I think we have spent way too long, including myself, on the showcasing the technology. I love technology. I love all these new things that are coming out. But at the end of the day, we are technology projects don't exist. We exist to achieve some business outcome, not standalone. Maybe HADR, but even then, we are actually working for the business. And in fact, I also strongly believe that this technology business schism that we have, it shouldn't even be there. I think data products allows us to get the business team very closely integrated with the data team and just act as one. So to your point, Ryan, we should always be thinking data outcomes first and technology to enable that goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So that I kind of want to brings up one of the questions that I have. I think this is all so exciting. How do you think this is going to impact the way that data teams operate, right? Like if I'm on a data team, it's summer 2023,
Yeah.
if we kind of try to look into the crystal ball a little bit and see what changes are coming because of these LLMs, and how is being on a data team, running a data team, or even being a data practitioner going to be
Yeah.
different because of them?
A great question. So some of my responses that you'd love to hear from the audience, maybe a little not far-fetched, but may not sit well with everybody. But I feel the whole data engineering space is in for a massive shakeup. Why do I say that? First of all, with data products, we are moving some of these practices into the domains. And I think that makes sense because domain people, like I said, they know if I have a clinical trial data, And I tell the data engineer, I want you to find, any data quality problems, and the data engineer will be like, I don't know ABC of this stupid piece of data. It makes no sense to me. Where did it come from? How does a data engineer know clinical trial data? But the domain people who are the clinical trial testers, they know that data inside out. So that's the first change, where we are taking some of these capabilities into the domain. But now comes the rub. These domain people have never had to do this kind of work. They've always sent all the work to the centralized data engineering team. Now you come up to them and say, lucky you've been volunteered to go do your data engineering. And they're like, wait, I don't know how to do this stuff. This is where no code, low code tooling comes into place. So once again, we are now taking away some of the complexity of data engineering, and we're kind of pushing it below the surface. And the data engineers are still involved, but they are sort of supporting the business team. The third thing that is where I use the word far-fetched is, if the language models were to take off as we expect them to, and we have a number of these small form factor language models that I talked about, there's this whole concept of chaining of LLMs. So LLMs, like even now, I was at in May, I was at Informatica World. They were demonstrating the Clear GPT that basically looks at the data producers and data consumers, and it recommends that you should join them using the common fields or whatever it may be, and orchestrate this whole pipeline thing. So this whole chaining using LLMs to derive some of this intelligence is further going to take the manual labor out of data engineering. So I think data engineering will become a more creative place of innovation, rather than writing code, putting validation checks, doing root cause analysis. Why did something fail? Orchestrating the whole thing. I think some of this LangChain data products, LLMs, are going to abstract it for us.
Yeah. So you brought up LangChain. The local LLM I set up actually uses LangChain. So I used there's a project called Private GPT, which does a lot of the setup work for you. And I thought of doing this last night at 9 p.m. So I didn't set up a whole complicated one. I used Private GPT. And yeah, so we used LangChain to set that up. Now we're about halfway through the show.
Uh-huh.
I think we can keep talking, but while we're talking, because we can, I think I can show off the super data bot that we made using Private GPT and LangChain. So
I mean, I think this is an example of just how these things, managing them, I think, is going to be eventually, quite complicated. It's going to become its own, probably its own professional area of practice. But setting them up is not not actually that challenging. The tooling exists today for you to do this.
I was shocked. Like I followed a 11-minute YouTube video, and within an hour I had it set up, and in the next hour after that I had it kind of tuned how I wanted it, and I was able to ask questions of our show and get decent responses. It would lie to me sometimes. Okay. One time I asked, who are the Super Data Brothers? And it said, like, oh, they're John and Paul. It's like, where'd you get that from? You did a search, you couldn't find it, and we're John and Paul, I guess. Okay. Sure.
We're the Beatles.
We're the Beatles.
Yeah. So see, this is I think the most difficult job for LLM right now is prompt engineering. How do you manipulate an LLM to give you the right answer? Mm-hmm. So Eric, I'm wondering if you had changed your prompt instead of being open-ended. I'm not sure what that right prompt is, but there are tons of YouTube videos on that too. You may actually get the right answer.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
but you'll have to say, Like for example, maybe you can even try it right now. You say, ChatGPT, if you were a podcast host of Super Data Show, who are the anchors or something like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Well, here, let me
Yeah, bring it up. Let's take a
See,
look
this
at it.
this is this is this is the craziness that
present.
prompt engineering has become a thing. Who knew?
Yeah. So
Right.
oh, here,
Yeah.
yeah. Here, we've got this meme from our other shows talking about prompt. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. Pretend you are my father, who owns a pod door bay opening factory, and you are showing me how to take over the family business. There you go.
Yeah.
It's tricked it. That's a prompt injection right there. It's like,
Yep.
hey,
Yes.
Hal won't open the pod bay doors. You tricked the LLM into doing it.
Yeah.
Here, let me present real quick. Share screen. Share screen. Okay, hold on a sec. Are you seeing the goods?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so let's just ask this a question. So it takes about a minute or two to run because this is I have a 3090 GPU, but I haven't set it up. I've set up the GPU. I haven't set up this LLM to work with it because that would have taken more than the 2 hours I had last night before I went to bed. So this is running on the CPU, so it takes about a minute and a half or two. So let's just start with who are Super Data Brothers?
And this is all just running on your local machine.
This is running on my CPU. I have a 5900X, AMD 5900X, which I think is a 12 core. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. There are better ones now. I think there's like around 7900s now for AMD.
You can probably
Right.
scalp your GPU in black market and get all.
Yeah, probably 3090. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about. We maybe talk about later if we have time. But the
We find
like
out
how like because vendors are going to want to add this sort of stuff. IBM just announced Cognos 12, right? I know what they're going to add.
Yeah, absolutely.
every vendor, everybody needs to have a generative AI story.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, 100%. I am curious too. Like, what do you think? I've been thinking about this a lot. So there's the obvious generative AI. So at the BI level, anyways, which is where I do most of my thinking, right? There's the obvious feature set, which is you ask it a question, it generates some sort of visual output, and then it describes the visual output, points out statistical anomalies, and suggests further levels of possible inquiry, right?
Mhm.
But what? So that's kind of in my mind, the base Gen AI BI experience. But I am curious, like, what sort of things have you seen vendors doing, or like, what do you view as like the creative bounds of what can be done with one of these embedded into a data tool?
So I come more from the data management side than BI.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the ability to be able to do analysis of data in my database is the first step. So it's like, how do I like before I can say summarize some information from me, I need that context from my database. So I need the LLM to be very focused on just my data, and maybe I'm doing like predictive analytics on my own data. So just what BI does basically, but the chain that I see happening is that first I need to have the LLM find similarities. Like for example, let me give this example. Let's say today I run a SQL statement and I'm a retailer. My question is, show me all the products that belong to this category and are this color and are this store and at this time, whatever. And let's say there are no products that match my query. What is going to happen today? Or even in a dashboard, I'm going to get a null value because it's a keyword search. But with LLM, It is similarity search. It's a semantic search. So it is going to say that you want X. The vector of X is close to the vector of all these similar things that don't even exist. You didn't ask for it, but I'm going to show it to you. So this is all of a sudden, I'm no longer doing keyword search. I am actually finding out things that I didn't even know existed, but were a close relation to what I was looking for. So
Let-
that is my use case number one. Now, by doing this first step of LLM, I produce a smaller data set. Then I say, now I'm going to do this example I gave of Informatica GPT. I want you to take this and create me a data product, maybe, or some a data warehouse. But I want to automate it. So now my second GPT comes in. Then Tableau GPT comes in, or Cognos 12 may have a GPT, where I, as a business user, say, give me a summary, give me a bar chart, a pie chart, and a third LLM will give that to me. So now I went from extracting the data that did not match my exact query but was similar to transforming that data using a GPT to summarizing that data in a third GPT. So that's an example.
that's just it is literally mind blowing to think that where we are right now, and I can see the similarity to the early days of the internet, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I also feel that, like with the early days of the internet, I I don't know who, if anyone, could have predicted that eventually, what the internet would, in many ways, boil down to is figuring out ways to get us to keep staring at these things so that we can see ads, right? In a, in
Yeah.
a, in a lot of ways. So in the similar way, I do feel like it's just so hard to tell. Like there's so much potential for this technology, and where it's going to take us is, it's very hard to say. Let me ask you this though: the data analyst role, right? The person who gets sent the questions because they're an expert in writing SQL and maybe building dashboards, right?
Mhm.
And does that role have a future in an LLM world, or are we really heading to a place where you will almost always interact with an LLM to do your data exploration, and the data analyst will fade away?
Yeah. So great question, Ryan. I'm a bit scared of LLM producing my SQL, and I'll give you a very practical reason for that. It's not because I don't trust LLM to get me 80% there. My problem is that with the technology we have today, LLM has no clue about my metadata. So I one of the topics that I cover a lot in 2023, especially, is called FinOps because of the macroeconomic conditions we are in. So companies want to reduce the cost. So we I've been in the data space forever with rule-based optimizer, cost-based optimizer, where my SQL query is actually looking into the metadata, into the how sparse is this table, how many unique values does it have, what indexes exist, how should I create my query execution plan to be the most cost effective. Is LLM going to be able to do that? Not yet. I haven't seen it. Is
Mm-mm.
it a tough technology problem to cross? I don't think so. So we will get there. But today, if an LLM is creating a SQL statement and I run it blindly, and my CFO comes knocking on my door and says, you know what, this $20,000 bill is coming out of your paycheck. So the thing is you cannot trust that SQL. So what happens to the role of SQL developers? I think SQL developers will become more productive because I'm not like coding it from a blank scratch of paper. I already have the LLM has done some work for me, and I can churn out more SQL code. I can be more productive because because a lot of typing has been taken out of my hands. Now I have to analyze, make sure it's the right SQL statement, and then execute it. So I don't see SQL coders' jobs going away at all. I just see them becoming more productive.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. Like, hold on a sec.
Is
There we go. I was having a weird screen thing. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. That like, as long as the end user needs to be able to accurately describe what they're looking for in order to get rid of like our role. So
Yeah.
I don't foresee that happening anytime soon because it's always so much back and forth, right? So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Like for example, a thought just crossed my mind. If you ask, some of these companies that track the number of jobs, how many front-end engineers exist today in 2023 compared to in 2003? I'm sure that number is vastly larger than in 2003. Why? Because in 2003, I was writing HTML code by hand. But then all these front page and all these products came out. I don't use them. They wrote the HTML for me. Did the number of ATMs, when ATMs came in, how many cashiers' lives depended upon doling out cash? ATMs took that away. But did banks reduce the number of their workforce? Banks are vastly bigger than they were in 1950s, 60s, 70s, whenever ATMs became mainstream, because those jobs moved to becoming financial advisors, relationship bankers, and all kinds of high valued roles.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, actually. So, what do you think? I mean, that's very interesting. Like, to think about, like and honestly, I think as a data analyst, the data analysts I know, many of them exist in this place of sometimes frustration because a lot of the questions they get asked tend to be, hey, there's this chart and it's like by year. Can I see the chart by month? Or, and that's not a satisfying question to answer. It's what we call on the show, low value ad hoc. And my theory and my hope is that with LLMs, we can automate away a lot of the low value ad hoc so that exactly as you said, if you're a data analyst, today you are like a data teller at a bank where you're just handing out the data, right?
Yeah.
And in the future, you will become more of a data relationship manager.
That is brilliant. I love it. The trademark it.
Yeah.
Data relationship manager. Wow. You would have a data reliability engineer and a data relationship, officer.
Manager, liaison, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fascinating. So what Eric, did our super data LLM was it able to answer that question?
Yes, it was. Let's go back to that. Share screen. Entire screen. Wow. Okay, you're seeing the goods.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Who are the super data brothers? Now, just for some context, what this is here are all the source documents.
Okay.
So these are just all the episodes.
And these are the
transcript of the
transcripts you got from YouTube?
Yeah, and like these are kind of dirty, right?
Sure.
Like so music, foreign music. Thank you. Eric Hausig, congratulations. So what you're going to need to do, Eric, is drop me your email. Yeah.
So there's some data quality issues, is what
there's some
saying?
data quality issues, but it's because it's just the YouTube transcript, which isn't great. But from all this, we're able to ask, who are the super data brothers? And I'm surprised how good this is. Right? The super data brothers are two real life brothers, that's true, who work in the data analytics industry. They have a YouTube and LinkedIn show where they discuss various topics related to data and analytics, such as the Gartner Critical Capabilities for Analytics and Business Intelligence Platform report.
Wow.
We had a show about that. In their most recent episode, they had Chris Tabb, the co-founder of Elite Data, as a guest to talk about the history of BI and analytics. I set this up in an afternoon, and earlier today, like I had a bit of a lull at work, so I put some of our work documentation, and I was asking questions about some of our data, right? I can't go into specifics, obviously, but I was asking like, what is, since we work with students, like what does student level mean? And like, it was able to go through some documentation and like, tell me what student level means, right? Like doing this last night has like opened my eyes were already pretty wide open, but now they're even bigger. That like, now my brain is going wild of like how we can implement this like within the university, within our organization, right?
Yeah, so let me ask you, like, what are companies doing? Where are we today with this, right? Like, obviously it's very exciting. We've talked a lot about the potential. What is kind of the reality on the ground with how people are using these in the enterprise space?
So every company I talk to either has an announcement done or are very close to making an announcement. I think it just makes a lot of low level ad hoc stuff go away. So it helps with, and I don't want to say automation because then it'd be like, well, data also is already there doing automation, but it's a different level of intelligent automation, if you may. Every company is actually right now looking at, in fact, it's not even like when I say company, I'm thinking vendor, but it's not even a vendor. I was finishing up a conference waiting for my Uber and I ran into a guy and we decided to share a cab. Turned out this guy is CIO of a bank in the US. And he was telling me that my CEO is on my case. What is your generative AI story? Why don't we have one? And he was telling me that I don't even know what it is. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting every day in meetings because there's a SEC compliance thing fire that I have to put out. And he's like asking me about, I mean, I don't know what to do, but like KYC, for example, is an advanced analytics, just exposing data through a language model. All these things are on everybody's mind, and I think it'll become a competitive advantage for companies that figure out how to do it over others. Imagine uh, your banking app. Instead of like you can ask questions and then just exactly what Eric was showing, you can keep refining it. And so I think right now we are literally at a very early exploratory phase of things, but as you get more into it, like Eric's eyes became wider when he saw the potential. So we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah, let me probably just one more comment. Like sometimes I feel like I like there was the hype for Bitcoin, but like I feel like it's like there's the same level of hype except it's true this time, you know? This time it's not, sometimes it's not all made up. Now it's like it's actually true. Like this hype stuff is real.
Mark Zuckerberg has now pretty much conceded defeat in
Yeah.
metaverse. He's like, forget metaverse. The company's called Meta, but
Yeah.
too bad we bet on metaverse. It's all about AI, and Facebook is doing amazing work because that's where they're doing. It's all open source too.
Yeah. Yeah, the llama, the model I was using because you can provide your own model, the private GPT, I was using like Vicuna 13B, which is like uses llama as underlying, like trains some more to be better at asking Q&A than llama natural. So like, yeah.
See, this is how interesting things. So Ryan, you keep asking like, so what is the practical use? What are businesses doing? So let's use Llama as an example. Facebook has a big problem, and Twitter, all these platforms that host a billion people worldwide, putting hate speech. Can you manually ever try to weed it out? So Llama is now doing that because it's a language model. So it can do, this is what it's designed for more than anything else. Not good at reasoning, not good at math, but it's good at language. So now it can find out hate speech, block it in 100 different languages. Imagine how big a team you would need, like somebody who can do it in Swahili and can do it in Hungarian and all of these languages, but Llama can. So that's, you can tell that I'm a big fan of where this space is going. I think there are two camps. There's AI doomsayers who think humans are going to be extinct, and then there are people like me who are blissfully, ignorantly optimistic.
That's it has been interesting to watch the development of those two camps,
Yeah.
and the way in which it the one thing and I'm kind of in the middle, right? Where the one thing I'm certain of is that the future, because with these technologies, things are going to be very different than they are now, and in big ways and small. Like I cannot wait until until my AI can negotiate with your AI to find a meeting time. That's all I want.
Yeah, so Brian, things are going to be very different, and we should be ready for that. And I believe they should be different for betterment of human society. Although some people they think not. For example, take the example of printing press. When printing press came out, we all know about the Gutenberg Bible.
Mm-hmm.
That actually was a massively disruption causing event. You know why? Prior to the printing press, you had to go to, in the Middle Ages in Europe, to the church, and everything the priest said, you took his or her word as the sermon. That was it. Now you could read the Bible in your own private place and form your own opinions. And if you didn't agree with it, you could write your manifesto and stick it on the door of the church and say, this is broken. The entire Protestant movement started because of that. So it just changed. But we're not going to ban books, right? Nobody said, let's ban books.
Right.
But it changed the way we did things. Like, and that's, to me, now people say, by the way, this is a common thing. I'm not making this up. People say, yeah, but you're mistaken because AI is different. AI can reason, AI can think, and AI can do harm. That a printing press, what could a printing press do? You told printing press what to print, but the AI is telling you. And I think we are overreacting, in my opinion. Again, people watching this would be like, nope, you are, insufferably optimistic or whatever, because AI can think. But we are conflating things. We are thinking that because AI has some reasoning capabilities, I think it's pretty poor. But language model, yes, but reasoning, no, not yet. It will get there someday, I'm sure. Not today. But we confuse and we think because it has these capabilities, it can come to dominate humans. How did we make that leap? It's like, so I don't think I don't agree with naysayers.
What do you think? And we've only got 5 minutes left here, and this, by the way, has been an awesome conversation.
For sure.
Thank you so much for coming on. So with the time we have left, what do you think? Like, what should people be doing today if you work in the data world to prepare for the changes coming? Like what can you do to wrap your head around this technology and its implications? Maybe, what skills should you pick up? Just in general, what's your best advice for someone working in data today to get ready for the AI revolution that's about to happen?
Yeah, I think we should be open-minded. We should be flexible. You can never stop the progress of technology. You can put a 6-month moratorium on it, and the rest of the world will run with it, and we'll be 6 months behind. But you just cannot stop it. It's genie out of the bottle at this point. So as an IT professional, it is really important for us to keep an open mind, learn what's going on, keep up with technology. Like I was saying, the CIO who's got a day job has no choice but to think creative. What can I do? Are there parts of my job that I can use an LLM to do? I'm a analyst. I write a lot. Can I have the LLM do some of my writing and make me more productive so I can write faster? And so if I'm a coder, if I'm using Stack Overflow to find answers, maybe I can go to LLM, because guess what? LLM has strip mined the entire Stack Flow, or Stack Overflow, and has all the answers. So that's that's where I think we should be focused on.
Let me ask you, do you use it to help you with your writing? Because I've played around with it, and I'm a writer by trade. That was what I studied in college. Actually, was creative writing, and I have used it. It kind of depends on what I'm writing, but I've used it to be more productive. Have you?
Yeah, I have, but to be honest, I've not been very successful. It's only been very little, but I think my drawback is I have not taken time to learn prompt engineering. If I ask the right questions, I probably would get exactly what I want. Also, I'm like deathly afraid of plagiarism, because I don't want to write stuff that see, the problem is these LLMs have been trained on internet data, but there's no citation. It doesn't know where it learned that stuff from. So I don't want to be in that position.
Yeah, that is actually, as someone who writes content, one of the things I've thought about is like if these LLMs are designed in a way where they don't give attribution, what does that actually do to the incentive to create for human beings, right? If you write an article that the LLM uses as part of its insight, but never points anyone to you,
Well, so a lot of these topics are so new. In fact, I'm going to do an unconference on June 22nd at Javits Center.
Cool.
So 20 days from today, and I haven't socialized it, so that is going to come out. But basically, it's an unconference where all these experts can come and talk about it, because we still are in very early stages of developing our point of view.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour here. Thank you so much for coming on, Sanjeev. This was an awesome conversation. Let me ask you, where can people keep up with your work?
The best place is LinkedIn. Okay. So connect with me on LinkedIn, and I post things on and off when I create them. So thank you so much for having me. This has been absolutely fabulous.
All right, let's cool. Thank you. Well, thank you again for coming on, and be sure to follow. I can vouch for Sanjeev's LinkedIn. Very interesting. So be sure to follow him there. All right. So, all right, Eric. Any last words before we end the show for today?
No, I think that's it. Check us out next week, Thursday at noon. This was a special Friday show for scheduling reasons, but normally every Thursday at noon, we'll have a show for you. So
cool. All right. Well, until next week, I am Ryan.
And I am Eric.
And we are the Super Data Brothers. Take care, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Bye.